Welcome to worship at the Unitarian Universalist community of Charlotte. My name's Jared Brown. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I'm a member of this congregation. Those of you who are with us for the first time, welcome. Whether you're watching live on February 13th or at some time in the future, we're grateful to have you here. If you'd like to learn more about us, reach out to our membership coordinator, Kelly Green. You can look for her, comment under today's welcome post on our public Facebook page, or send her an email at kelly@uuccharlotte.org. Guests and members, there's so much to connect with here in our community for people of all ages. We have creative Sunday programming for children and youth. We engage in weeknight classes for adults and social opportunities for all ages. Explore our website or our email newsletter currents for more information. Again, welcome all, and thank you for spending this time in our community.
I add my welcome to Jared's. I'm Eve Stevens. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm one of this congregation's ministers. Our reading is a love poem by Ellen Bass from her collection, The Human Line. Ellen Bass wrote this poem before the 2015 Supreme Court decision declared it legal for Bass to refer to her beloved as my wife. In this poem, Bass explores the complexity of living daily life in a society that privileges and protects the rights of straight couples, while relegating gay love to the shadows and refusing to recognize or protect gay marriage. As you're about to hear, in spite of all the complications they encounter in their daily life together, this is indeed a love poem. Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, by Ellen Bass. I can't always refer to the woman I love, my children's other mother, as my darling, my beloved, sugar in my bowl. No, I need a common utilitarian word that calls no more attention to itself than nouns like grass, bread, house. The terms husband and wife are perfect for that. Hassling with PG&E or dropping off dry cleaning, you don't want to say, the light of my life doesn't like starch. Don't suggest spouse, a hideous word. And partner is sterile as a boardroom. Couldn't we afford a term for the woman who carried that girl in her arms when she was still all promise? That boy curled inside her womb. And today when I go to kiss her and she says, not now, I'm reading. Still, she deserves a syllable or two, if only so I can express how furious she makes me. But maybe it's better this way. No puny pencil stub of a word. Maybe these are exactly the times to drag out the whole galaxy of endearments. Buttercup. I should say, lambkin, mon petit chou. Set down war and peace just for a moment and lift your ruby lips to mine. And talking to the dishwasher repairman, the vacuum cleaner salesman, the woman in the Blue Cross billing department, I could explain that I'd already sent the copay for my soulmate, my duckling, my chocolate-covered cream puff. Maybe it would lighten her day, too. Hello, I might say. You precious, you jewel, oh queen among queens, darling honey pie angel, my sweet patootie.
We light this flame as a symbol of our UU faith.
And with the hope that all people have the experience of loving and feeling loved in this life. I hope.
We hear and use the word love all the time in all sorts of contexts. We often sense intuitively what we mean when we say, I love you. We intuitively know when we feel loved by a friend or parent or child. But we don't often put into words how we know that love is love. My friend Erica and I met when we were 3. Our parents worked similar schedules, and so not only did we get to spend all day at school together, we went to after-school care for hours together as well. Through changes in schools, moving far away from home, beginning careers and families, our friendship has continued for 32 years. We don't always say, I love you, at the end of a phone call, but we do love each other. When I had to switch schools in 7th grade and begin in a place where I knew absolutely no one, I didn't know where to sit for lunch. I didn't know the etiquette of addressing teachers, and I certainly didn't know what was the cool way to dress and what was not the cool way to dress according to my new peers. I felt so alone, out of place, unwanted that first day. When I finally made it home and walked off of the bus, there was Erica at my house waiting for me. I can still recall vividly how this wave of a feeling of belonging washed over me when I saw her. If you asked me how I know my friend loves me, one thing I'd say is that she has always paid attention to me. Whatever crisis or triumph I'm experiencing, she is so invested in the journey I'm on, so committed to accompanying me. She's curious, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? And she listens in a way that tells me she really wants to know. I know she loves me because she pays attention to me. That's how she shows how committed she is to our friendship. Growing up in my home congregation, I knew a man who loved his dog. She was small, white, and fluffy, and he brought her every Sunday. Before heading into the sanctuary, he'd set her up outside on the patio, attaching her leash to a tree that allowed plenty of space to roam. He'd bring a bowl for water, for food, a comfy dog bed he would set up, and some toys. And after the service, when they were at last reunited, he would scoop her up and, cradling her like a baby, he'd rub her ears and her belly while he talked to people. I remember he said once, affectionately scratching her head, "Some days she's the only thing that gets me out of bed." If I had to say how I know he loved that dog, I would say because he took care of her. He thought through whatever might make her feel comfortable, safe, and happy. And it brought him such unabashed delight to take care of her. I recently watched a charming, awkward, coming-of-age romantic comedy. It was a film written and directed by Alice Wu called The Half of It. In that film, we meet Ellie Chu, who is a senior in high school. She is doing her best to pay rent. Her family is struggling. And the way that she makes money and helps her family financially is to charge money to write most of her classmates' papers and other assignments. Ellie navigates both her own world of adolescence, which is complicated enough, and the adult world for her father, who speaks Chinese but very little English. In the small rural town where she lives, Ellie rides her bike home after school and is routinely subjected to racist, anti-Chinese American jokes from her white classmates as they drive past. One day, a football player named Paul approaches Ellie and says he'll pay her to write love letters to his crush, the most popular girl in school. Paul and Ellie end up spending a lot of time together working on these love letters. They hang out with one another's families, experiencing mealtime in each of their households. They confide things in one another that they've never shared. By the end of the movie, it is clear that Paul has developed feelings for Ellie. Romantic, platonic, somewhere in between. It's hard to say. He marvels at her turn of phrase, how well she knows herself, and how hard she works to support her family. He appreciates her. He respects her just as she is. I don't remember Paul ever putting it into words. But as we watch him, we know he loves Ellie. The prolific author, committed activist, and beloved professor Bell Hooks died just a few months ago in December of last year. Throughout her career, Hooks focused on the ways that patriarchy, racism, and capitalism perpetuate oppressive systems. She focused on how the ways we relate to one another across our differences encourage domination rather than collaboration. Hooks reflected at length on the methods men, white people, and wealthy people use to protect their own privilege. How those with the most power support systems that oppress women, people of color, and economically disadvantaged communities. Hooks lamented often that American culture values dominance and excess, stepping on one another, pushing those who are different from us downward so we can climb closer to the top. Hooks lamented that dominance and excess in practice are key American values, not people's worth and well-being. The poet Ellen Bass writes, "I can't always refer to the woman I love, my children's other mother, as my darling, my beloved, sugar in my bowl. No," she says, "I need a common utilitarian word, one with shared cultural meaning and relevance." Bass asked, couldn't we afford a term for a love like mine? Which is to say, isn't there enough space in our lives together for someone like me? It took relentless organizing, marching, vigils, to bring about marriage equality in this country. The dominant heteronormative culture fought back, struggling to keep gay couples cut off from federal benefits and privileges that straight couples enjoy every day. They went so far as to pass the Defense of Marriage Act in 1996, defining marriage explicitly as only something that exists between a man and a woman. Bell Hooks wrote often about oppression, about our human tendency to seek dominance over those who are different than we are. She also wrote a lot about love. In her essay, Love as the Practice of Freedom, Hooks wrote, "A culture of domination is anti-love. It requires violence to sustain itself. To choose love, then, is to go against the prevailing values of the culture. To choose love, then, is to go against the prevailing values of the culture." In the years leading up to marriage equality in this country, so many people across the spectrum of sexuality brought their differences together and chose love as they wrote to their elected officials and joined in the streets for protests. Heteronormative culture tried to hold its place of dominance, most often through fear, with leaders like then Indiana Governor Mike Pence warning that gay marriage would lead to the deterioration of marriage and family and eventually, quote unquote, societal collapse. To choose love is to go against the prevailing values of the culture. Hooks argued that love was the only sustainable foundation for justice work. She reflected on her own experiences of feeling loved and of loving others, And from those experiences, she distilled what she called the ingredients of love. Among them, commitment, care, and respect. The way Hooke saw it, love was not only a feeling, it was a way of life. She longed for everyone who was working toward justice, whatever their issue, to adopt a love ethic. An ethic, a practice, a discipline, a way of being and doing that is deeply rooted in a set of values. A love ethic, a way of life committed to embodying the values inherent in love. A way of life that measures our choices and our actions by how much they reflect commitment, care, and respect. Love is a powerful force in our lives. Love is one of our greatest abilities as human beings. It connects us to those who make our lives worth living. And love is not only a feeling, it's a practice, a discipline, a way of life. We need not feel any passion or even personal affection towards someone to treat them with care, commit to their well-being, show them respect. A love ethic translates beyond having sweethearts, adoring our children, or showing affection to our friends. When we practice love with intention, tenacity, and courage, love has the power to dissolve systems of dominance. Love is a meeting place where all people are equal. Living by a love ethic, if we commit to that practice, has the power to transform our society into a community.
I love riding around in classic cars. I love chocolate. I love the smell of jasmine. I love the smell of orange blossoms in the springtime. I also love my son. I love my wife. The English language seems to use this term universally for many things, while other languages reserve special words for love. Being asked to share my reflections on love today has given me a chance to look at the areas of my life where love exists and flourishes. It's also given me a chance to give a little love and maybe get some back. The archetype of the mature lover suggests a person who has access to their feelings and their emotions. The children of such a person often know that person's heart, know that person's spirit, know that person's dreams and aspirations, but also know that person's pain and that person's fear. My parents gifted me with a loving childhood, a childhood that I sometimes feel apologetic about when I hear about how rare it is. My father wasn't taught how to express his feelings, and I had to learn myself through the work with my men's group. Learning how vulnerability and being vulnerable allows love in and allows love out has been a lot of my inner work. I've never had any trouble seeing beauty in women, but learning how to see the beauty in men and learning how to fall in love with my brothers has been good for me. There's a sacrificial aspect to love, a setting aside of oneself for the sake of others. As a young man, falling in love is what happened to me often. Falling as if to say, losing control, total surrender. As a young man in love, I felt the sensation tingling all the way to the tips of my branches and sometimes shaking the very roots of the ground that I had below me. As an older man, I've learned how to recognize the shadowy aspects of the lover archetype. The poet Rumi speaks about a garden that we've been entrusted to that represents the love around us and the love in our lives. We have a choice. I have a choice to give the needed moisture or hold the moisture back. I hold the moisture back, my garden withers and dies. I can also flood the garden with too much. I can wash the soil from the roots. The inner work that I'm doing uses these two energies to understand and bring them from my subconscious into my awareness so I can choose which wolf that I want to feed. The band Nazareth does a song, Love Hurts. It opens up the cost of love. We can lower our shields and let love in. I can armor myself up and protect myself. But to allow love in and out, I must drop my armor. Khalil Gibran speaks about the sword that's hidden in the folds of the wings of love that surround you. Think not that you can direct the course of love. If love finds you worthy, love directs your course. You know, this being human, we don't get a choice of just to let love in and not to let pain in. My first marriage offered me the gifts of a deep love that shook me eventually to my roots. After getting up off of love's threshing floor, I got the gift of fatherhood. I got a chance to feel what unconditional love feels like, gazing into the eyes of my own child. Imagine the image of a melting heart. My wife Justine and I have enjoyed a loving marriage of over 18 years that's mutually nurturing and supportive. One of the hallmarks of our marriage is honoring the space between us. The author Leo Bastaglia talks about how strings of a musical instrument can't make beautiful music if they're too close. Lucky for me, one of my wife's love languages is the preparation of amazing food. On my 21st birthday, my father gifted me with a birthday card that's also quoted Khalil Gibran's words, that work is love made visible. And when you work with love, You charge everything you fashion with a breath of your own spirit. I'll end with a prayer from the prophet, that you all may come to know the pain of too much tenderness, and that you bleed willingly and you bleed joyfully. I hope.
Of such I dream, of such I dream, of such I dream, of such I dream, of such I dream. I dream of world and man, of the land of scorn, when love will bless the earth,
and peace its paths adorn.
I dream of world where all in a sweet freedom swing, and hate no longer stands the stone, nor avarice blights our day. A world I dream of, black or white, whatever race you be, will share the bounties of the earth, and every man is free. Of such I dream, 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 where wretchedness will hang its head, and the joy like a curtain falling on mankind. Of such I dream,
Of such I dream.
I dream, Lord.
Our meditation is by the Catholic mystic Thomas Merton. But before we hear those words, I invite you to close your eyes, deepen your breath, and connect for a moment with the source of strength for you, a source of hope for you. What held you, what carried you through this week? Thomas Merton writes, "Our job is to love others without stopping to inquire whether or not they are worthy. That is not our business. In fact, it is nobody's business. What we are asked to do is to love. And this love itself will render both ourselves and our neighbors worthy." Amen.
There are many ways to express your love. One of the ways is through your generosity. Please help support the amazing programs that this community has to offer and express your love through your contributions. Thank you very much.
We are so relieved that the infection rate and number of COVID-19 cases continues to decline significantly each day in our area. And with that in mind, we've decided to return to in-person programming starting next Sunday, February 20th. If you want to read more about how we made that decision or figure out more about children and youth religious education next Sunday and how to sign up for attending next Sunday's service in the sanctuary, check out the article in our newsletter, Currents. Our stewardship team announced an exciting new initiative this week. Starting today, we will share half of all contributions to the offering plate, virtual and in person, organizations that are creating positive change to the broader community. We're going to share our resources, those contributions that are not pledges, with a number of different organizations over time, but we're starting off this Share the Plate initiative with donations to Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism, or BLUE, as they are known. BLUE was formed in 2015 by Black Unitarian Universalists with the mission of justice making within and beyond Unitarian Universalism, and expanding the power and capacity of Black Unitarian Universalists within our faith. So there are all kinds of ways to make a contribution, but you can start today by texting BLUE, B-L-U-U, to 1-855-946-4339. And don't worry if you need to get your phone There'll be a chance at the end of the service as well. We'll end our time together this morning sending love to those we know about in our congregation who are in most need of our care and attention. As you hear each name and each concern, pause and send love in their direction. We hold in our prayers Mary Ellen Brooke, Juniper and Rowan and Tom and all their family as they mourn the death of Mary's father. We hold in our hearts Tom Cole and Carol Hartley, Patrick and Sarah and all their family as Tom faces a serious health challenge. We're sending love to Jolena, James, Santon, Alex, and Kai Santon and their entire family as they mourn the death of Jolena's father this week. We hold in our prayers Craig Pullman, Jen Neitzel, Josh, Gabe, and Luke Pullman and all their family as they mourn the death of Craig's father. We hold in our hearts Julie Prentice and her family as Julie faces a health challenge this week. We are sending love to Katie Ridenauer, Terry McCaffrey, James, Sean, and Will McCaffrey and all their family as they mourn the death of Katie's sister. We hold in our prayers Neil Sigmund and Mary Ann Lawler as Neil enters the care of hospice. We hold in our hearts Bill and Abby Stepien, Colin Stepien, and all their family in this time of concern for Bill's health. We're sending love to Jonah Whittle, son of our member Dara Whittle, and grandson of our member Sage Brooke, as he is in the active military in this time of international tension. We hold in our prayers Tawana Wilson Allen, Manny Allen, and all their family as Tawana continues to face ongoing health challenges. Whatever you are carrying in your heart today, may you too feel held by the love of this community. I leave you with words paraphrased from Khalil Gibran. If we weave the cloth of our lives together with thread drawn from our hearts, then our work, what we produce, what we bring into this world, will be love made visible. Be well. Reach out when you need us, and happy Valentine's Day.
If I fell in love with you, would you promise to be true and help me understand? 'Cause I've been in love before, and I found that love was more than just holding hands. If I give my heart
me do. Oh, love me do.